Hello viewers, so welcome to 2 and 3D. This is part 4 in the series, creating a puppet from scratch, A to Z. So this is a comprehensive guide. If you have not watched the previous episodes, that's the part 1, part 2 or part 3, you can go back to that and watch it. I'm hoping I will link. I'm definitely going to be linking the entire playlist for you, so just go back and watch before coming to this, but you could also just start from here if you want. It's still fine. So in the last episode we worked on the eyebrow, giving the character facial emotions. We worked on angry pose. We worked on happy, sad, and all those emotional facial features. So in this episode, what we're going to be doing mostly is the hands, because that is the final part we're going to be adding before we go into the rigging aspect of this character. So normally what you need to do is create hands, but creating hands for every single character over and over when the hands are actually similar. Hands are not something, mostly it's just the color that makes them different from one character to the other, so you do not have to create hands over and over again. So what I do is I pick hands that previously this made for other characters, and then I just directly paste it into this character and then adjust it to fit in for this particular character, so I don't have to go through the rigor of like making hands over and over and over again. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to leave a link in the description, so you could get hands, at least hand for this particular character, and I'm going to be adding for so many other characters, because I've created special hands for different characters. So there are some characters that may be very cartoony characters that I actually had to create 4 fingers actually. So those ones are like the Family Guy kind of characters, so they are 4-fingered characters. So I made those ones, and then I made some hands that are like for monsters. I made hands for different kind of characters. So if you watch one of my releases, I think I released it, I think it's like the 4th release from this, I spoke about how I created hands, and I'm going to go in depth into it in future tutorials, like how I create hands from scratch. But for now, you can just rely on what we have on the site. So what I'm actually doing here is adding details to the eyes. You could do that, you could leave that out, it's still fine. If you want it in a very cartoony character, it is more like a realistic character to a point, so that is why I'm adding certain details, but you do not have to add that for a very cartoony character. So back to the tutorial. Okay, so we're talking about hands. Hands, it doesn't look like a very important feature. You could just go with what we have in the Adobe Illustrator, and then use draggables, and then maybe be changing the hands. But me, I go beyond that. I actually create hands in cycle triggers, then I apply a cycle layers to them. I know it's a bit complex, but if you just follow the tutorial, you'll be able to get it. So instead of relying on draggables, and honestly I've done that before, and it's not easy to animate using draggables, because now you have to be doing that over and over and over again. But it's better to just make it in cycle layers, and then you just click a button on your keyboard, and then it plays that cycle for you, and then that's all, and you can record live doing that. So that's what I do for my hands. As you can see, I picked the hands from one of my characters that I've actually created. Not a character, the hand group that I made in my previous tutorial. So I just dragged it into this character, and then I'm going to resize it to fit in for the character. I'm doing everything over the character for now, but one of the hands are eventually going to go behind the character, and the one in front. So just take note of what I'm doing. Okay, one reason I actually like Adobe Illustrator again is okay, now that I've created these hands for a white guy, I'm actually trying to rig a black guy right now. So in Photoshop, at least from my own experience, I don't know if there's something that I'm missing. Maybe you leave a comment in the description. Just explaining what you did, and then maybe I'll replicate it in a future tutorial. But from my experience in Photoshop, whenever I try to change the color, like maybe I created hands for a white character and I duplicate it, and then I'm trying to do it for a black character, it's a bit difficult to change the color. You might have to, at least me, what I used to do back then is I used to rely on what is it called, the hue saturation, right? Yes, saturation. I used to use the hue saturation to make the color at least closest to the color of the character that I'm creating. But in Illustrator is way better, because all you just need to do is select the entire thing. You go to the color, not the color picker, the color wheel. You select that, and then you change the color, a particular color. You could change a whole pink color in your whole character. You could change pink color in your whole character to green at once, without necessarily trying to adjust and do whatever in Photoshop. That is why I keep advising every single time I always recommend that you use Adobe Illustrator. You only use Photoshop when it's absolutely necessary. Like in my own case, I do not use Photoshop at all. In some cases, when I need to create characters with all those features that you can only get from Photoshop, like maybe like their special brushes that you cannot use in Adobe Illustrator, what I do is I make those in Photoshop, and then I drag the image to my Adobe Illustrator, and then I place it there. Because honestly speaking, it is way better to animate from Adobe using vector than using bitmap. So now this is how I create hands, especially when the hands are a bit unique, like that's the upper arm and the lower arm, because the fingers are supposed to be in the same position, so just ignore the fingers. So I've done this for the eyebrow, and if you are listening very closely, you will realize that you will know that what I actually did for the eyebrow is exactly the same thing I'm actually replicating here. So what you do is you create, there's a section that I actually leave out. That section, when you get a character from our site, make sure you do not delete that. It's a plus ref. You notice that it doesn't have any use when in the rigged character, at least the rigged version of the character, there's no particular use for that. So but some people might be tempted to delete it, just maybe to optimize their character a bit, but do not delete that. That file is actually very important, because that is the outline for creating hands and brows and some other features that I added. So what we are doing is we create an arm that we think is well fitted for our character. After creating the arm, we now select it. You make sure you create it in a straight line, and then you select it. If it's live paint that you use to paint it, if you painted it with live paint brush bucket 2, paint bucket 2 rather, make sure you expand it. When you expand it, it becomes a part. So after you do that, you select it, and then you click your brush, and then you add it as an art brush. When you add it as an art brush, now you could use 2 pivot points to control that arm, and that makes a lot of sense than redrawing the upper arm and the lower arm over and over for every cycle behavior that you're going to be creating. Because in my own case, whenever I create character, I go overboard. I create several arms, like several cycle triggers. For practically my characters can do every single thing, including like holding like if you checked one of the in this video, you could see that my character is even holding ice cream. There's no point for that, but I actually make those characters make those behaviors also included in my character. So make sure you draw at least me, I'm drawing the shirt over the arm, and you do not have to redraw the entire arm from scratch. You just need to add a shirt over it, or even if you're not adding a shirt over it, you could just trace or make sure the ending of the arm is there, like the same size. Make sure that is the same size. The hand could be as wide as it is, but the wrist, make sure the wrist is the same size as it is in this image. Do not change that aspect, because if you do, you're going to have issues of aligning the fingers to the arm. Just follow closely what I'm doing. So I know it's sounding a bit complex, but honestly it's not. By the time you actually get this, it will to feel natural for you. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to cover the art, that is the upper arm, cover it, just close it so that I can use the live paint brush and live paint pocket tool to paint that portion of the arm. I'm sampling a color that is the color of the shirt, because the cloth that he has over his arm should be the same color as his shirt. It's like a sweater. Okay, I'm now doing the same thing, painting the upper arm. Then you could just cover the entire arm because it's still fine, it will work. So what you actually like, I'm actually recording this over the initial recording because the audio was bad, so I'm not recording this live. I'm following the tutorial and I'm recording over it. So something I actually missed while doing this is, okay, the hand, when you are doing it, you need to pay attention to certain regions, and honestly it's okay to just go through and just try an error, and then you fix certain things and then you get it right eventually, like I did in this tutorial. And it actually, I was supposed to cut this portion out, but sometimes I leave my errors in just so that you learn from it, so that you understand that even when things go wrong, there are certain things that you could fix, you could adjust certain things, and you get it right eventually. So now I've selected it and I'm creating the upper arm into a brush. Alternatively, what you could do, at least what I used to do, is I used to leave the upper arm and the lower arm together. I put it together, and that is actually good to an extent because it will save you so much time. But one issue, that one particular thing that I realized from that was, whenever I do that, it's good at first because you could, and I actually will do a tutorial about that and compare both. But I like creating a character that looks very dynamic, a bit like a more realistic than just if you are going with a bendy kind of character, character that the hands bend, like those cartoony spring kind of rubber hose kind of characters with their hands springing without joints and stuff like that. That is the perfect way to do that. It works perfectly. But whenever you bend your arm, if you notice, if you are drawing the arm, there is like a crease line that goes through the upper arm, sort of. So that is why I'm splitting this. That's why I'm splitting this this arm and making it upper and lower arm, so that you could adjust those parts, and it works way better than the other one, at least for more realistic characters. Okay, so I'm doing the same thing for the upper arm, and then what I do for the opposite, that is the flipped version of the hand, that is for the arm A. This is for arm A. What I do for arm B is flip that upper arm, flip it to the reflect it. After reflecting it, then you do the same thing. You click on the brush, you make it an add brush, so you have a flip version of the same arm. So now all I need to do is go through every single arm I've created and select the upper arm and then change it to the current upper arm. Do that to the lower arm, and you have something like you can see now. Now you notice the error, the issue that I had. My issue with this character is, you see the upper arm and the lower arm are not aligning properly, and that is because the lower arm, I made it a bit wider than the upper arm, so you could just adjust that a little and do the same thing. Like you select, you go to the paint brush, and then you make it an add brush, and then the same thing. Or you could alternatively, that is exactly what I did, I just adjusted it manually on this character. I would not recommend you do that, especially with my characters, because they've been perfectly aligned. You could do that, but you have to go through every single arm that I've created and do that over and over and over and over again, which is very, very rigorous and very very time consuming. So I would say it's better you go back to the paint brush the add brush that you created, and then you adjust it slightly, you recreate that brush, and then you do that again. You keep doing that with just one arm, and once you get it right with just one arm, you've gotten it right with every single arm. So instead of going in and readjusting every single arm, you just try to focus on just one arm. After getting it right on one arm, boom, you have it. It's the same thing. You can replicate the same thing on every single arm, and it will work perfectly. So that's what I actually finally did. I went against just readjusting it manually, and then I reworked on the character, readjusted it a bit. In my own case, this character was a bit the lower arm was rotated a bit towards the other part. That is why it was poking out a bit. So I just readjusted it a bit, and then I realized that the character, at least the character's body, has a thicker line. Like the lines of the character is a bit thick, which is something you could do. You could select every single black color in the arm and then just adjust it, maybe add an outline to it. I worked that out with one of my arms, because like going through and redrawing every single arm or making the line bolder, it's really messy. So what I did was I selected every black line and added an outline to it, and then now I can increase the outline and make it like 3, and you see that the lines are a bit thicker. But in this case, because it's just one art, I just went in and redrew over the line, just made it a bit thicker. So now you do the same thing. You go back to the brush place, and then you add an art brush. You make sure you select it, then you make it an art brush, and then now you can come select just the first arm, and then select the upper arm. Boom, you put it, and then it should work. And if it still doesn't, you go back and you readjust. Then you keep doing this over and over and over again. And honestly, it's better you keep repeating this thing and get it right, because it will save you so much time in the future, especially when you now understand what you are supposed to do, than to try to manually adjust it. And if you notice the lower arm, that is the wrist, around the wrist, I'm supposed to adjust the shirt a bit upward, so that the fingers are not overlaid over the shirt. And I believe that is what I did. And even if I did not, I could just really easily adjust that particular hand, because that only applies to like the default hand. The other arms should be fine, but I did readjust it. Okay, good, that is exactly what I'm doing right now. So I adjusted it a bit, took it to the top, took it above a bit, and then created a brush, and then the same thing. So you just need to understand the process. All you need to do, you create the hand, that's the upper hand and the lower hand, using a file known as +ref. And you could create your own, it's fine, you could create your own, but my own, at least for my hands, I very, very well adjusted, and this saves you so much time in the future. So all you just need to do is either you create the brush, the hand, or you overlay whatever you want, whether it's a shirt or whatever, or you adjust or tattoo or whatever, you draw it over the hand ref, that would the +ref portion of the upper arm. Once you do that, now you could select it to recreate a brush with that hand, and then now you could replicate it all, like you could replicate it on every single arm within the same hand region, like within the same character. So you see, now I've adjusted it, and now if you notice, the color of the upper arm, the lower arm, sorry, the wrist is different from his finger, which is fine, because all these things can be adjusted later. It's so easy to adjust it. Now I'm making everything visible, like every single hand. I'm making every single hand visible so that I can select just one. All you need to do is select one upper arm. You go to select, and then you select all that are similar in appearance. When you select all that are similar in appearance, it will select every single upper arm in this character, to select every single upper arm, at least the ones that are visible. And then once you do that, you just change to the new upper arm or to the new lower arm, and boom, all your characters every single arm have been changed in every single cycle layer, in every single group and whatever. So this makes your work way easier, You just need to adjust certain things, and boom, you can change whatever. You could change the character, make the character have short sleeves, you could make the character have long sleeve, you could make the character have shoulder pads, anything you want to add to this character's hand, which normally would have been very difficult. You would have gone through and start redrawing every single layer in every single cycle layer in every single group, and every single layer every single cycle group in every single layer. But now you just need to adjust one, and then you just apply it on every single hand. I know by now it's not that complex again, at least since I've explained it over and over and over again, but I'll still go on and still re-explain it because you need to get this right. And I would say you should do this with one of our characters, like at least one of the characters on the site. Before you do that on any character, well, you could still come back and re-download on our site, but I just want you to duplicate the initial character before doing that, and then so that any change you apply to this new to the new character you are creating, at least to the new character you've been adjusting, you have a backup somewhere, so you can always go back to the backup and rework on it. So it's the same thing you do for the left arm. You flip the upper arm, you flip it, and in my own case, do not touch the lower arm, because the lower arm is the same, is at least was created in the same position, so it works for both right and left. But the upper arm does not work for left, so you have to flip that. And then when you flip that, you do the same thing. You select it, you make it a paintbrush, art brush, you make it an art brush, and after making it an art brush, so now you have upper arm art brush. So now you just select one of the layers, one of the hand group, that's one of the hand group in the cycles you just select one, and then you go to select all by appearance. When you select all by appearance, every single upper arm will be selected. So after every single upper arm is selected, you go back to your paintbrush, you select it, and then you apply the new brush you just created. You apply the new brush that is for the upper arm, you apply it for every single one. And there is an issue with this. If you notice, there's a white portion that is not supposed to be there. It is an issue from the brush. So what I did was I just went back to the same brush, readjusted it, removed the white portion, and then reapplied it. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing now. So just at least watch what I'm doing on the screen. Okay, if this is very complex, I understand that. Okay, I'm actually working like speeding, trying to make sure I beat time in this tutorial in as much as I'm trying to make it as comprehensive as I can. But I would still make a tutorial about this, maybe a simpler tutorial where I would create the hand from scratch and then do the creation of like every single art brush that I will apply eventually. So I'm going to be doing that hopefully in maybe in the next like 4 uploads or so. But just like the initial character, this particular character that I'm creating, I got a request from one of our subscribers on this channel. So you could also give me a suggestion. You could give me what you want me to work on next. I know that a lady told me to work on, is it a lady or a man, I don't know, told me to work on a Muslim character with hijab. I know that might be a bit complex, at least for somebody who is just starting out, because now she has to worry about, especially if she wants to rely on draggers on CH, she has to worry about the hijab that is dripping on the hand, and then maybe her hand movement again, the hijab is supposed to be moving a bit or so. So I'm going to be doing that maybe after I'm done with this tutorial, and maybe a few upload afterwards. I'm going to be doing that. So you could give me your suggestion. You could drop whatever you want me to work on next. I know somebody told me to work on a soccer player, probably with ball juggling and some other few things like that. So I would also work on that eventually. So but you could drop what you want me to work on next in the description, and not in the description, in the comment section rather. I know there's a character that I finished up. It's an NBA. Scott Foster. I believe Scott Foster is the name of the character. At least the person that the character is based on. Scott Foster is an NBA referee. Yes, I think an NBA referee. So there are some triggers I added for this character. Like I had to add triggers for certain things. So initially I was going to add every single trigger, at least for the basketball referees use, but I now got a video reference, and then I realized that there are over like 50 kind of hand movements. So there was no way I'll be able to do that, and I have stops that I'm actually doing around. So I just told the client to pick out five cycle trigger, like five signs that he feels will be very, very paramount, very important for his character, especially when he's animating. So I worked on that. I made I think 3 points, 2 points, and some other few hands, like about 5 of them. Also, I'm going to be uploading the character on this channel, on the site. Actually, I think it's on the site currently, but I don't have a video for it yet. So I'm going to be doing a video for it on the site, on this channel. So it's the same thing. You make every single layer visible so that you can select them, and then you select the upper arm. You go to select, and then you select by appearance. When you select by appearance, every single upper arm with the same feature or the same appearance applied would be selected. So now all you just do is go to your brush and then apply it all through. I've said this over and over because that is the most important part you should pick from this video, and try to replicate this yourself. I want you to try to replicate it with a simpler object, not arm. Maybe draw an arm manually yourself, and then make it into a brush. After making it into a brush, just draw a line with your pen tool. When you draw a line with your pen tool, not your pen tool is actually one of those features on the right. Yes, on the right, on my left rather. So you just need to go there, select the pen tool, draw a line, and then try to apply it, and then you see what I'm talking about. It's really, really easy if you understand what you need to do. So after doing this, basically I'm done with the arm. And one thing you notice with this particular character of mine is it's not made like every other character. I'm going to go into that eventually. Normally when you are making a cycle layer, you just draw the arm one after the other, but in my own case, what I do is I don't think let me not make it more complex. I will make a special tutorial for that, and I'm going to make it as simple as possible so that you can get what I did there. So all I did was drag what I just did now, was drag the arm A to the top of the character, and then the arm B below the character. When I was learning character rigging and character creation and whatever for Adobe Character Animator, normally, at least when I was watching some tutorials, normally they put the arm inside the body. That's fine, but it's not the best way to do it, honestly. Especially like, let's say you want the character's hand to cover his face, it makes the work very, very impossible for you to do. So I would say stick with arm A at the top, stick with arm B behind the character, especially if the character is a two-third character, a character not facing front, is not frontal, is not left facing or right facing, so it's around that two-third kind of region, facing around. That should be 100 and I don't know the degree, sure, but you understand what I'm saying. So when you're making it, you make the arm B, place the arm B behind. Now the question is, what if you want the arm B to go in front of the character? Like maybe you want the arm B for the character to touch his forehead with the arm B, that is the arm behind the character. Now that is actually impossible to do. Not impossible to do, of course, but that is something you cannot do right now at this point. So there are some fixes, some things that you have to work on to make that possible. Now you have to create another layer of hand, in front of the character, and I'm going to cover this more in depth in a future tutorial. For now, this tutorial is just for you to be able to come to time, understand how to create characters, like make the character work for animation and stuff. So just pay attention. In a future video I'm going to cover that. So well, that's basically what you need to know, at least for this, for creating, for drawing and whatever. This is the portion that you need to know for Adobe Illustrator to be able to create a puppet like mine. So for now, this is all we have for you. In the next video we'll be rigging this character and stuff, so just try to watch that. Well, give us a like to really help us reach more people. Give us a subscribe, it will help us also, but it will also help you, so that in future, so that you get future updates of our future videos. Any video dropping, you'll be able to get an update and be able to watch it and learn more from us. Thank you for watching, and bye for now. I place it behind